Welcome to the channel The Numismatic Universe, and today we're about to reveal something that might just change your life forever. What if I told you that the loose change rattling around in your pocket, the coins you barely glance at before handing them to a cashier, could actually be worth millions of dollars? Most people spend these coins every single day without ever realizing they're holding a potential fortune in their hands, and today we're diving deep into one of the most extraordinary quarters in American history, a coin so valuable that finding just one could mean you'd never have to work another day in your life. We're talking about the 1980 quarter dollar, and before we go any further, let me hit you with the number that's going to blow your mind. This single quarter has been valued at an absolutely staggering $99 million. Yes, you heard that right, $99 million for a quarter that was minted in Denver back in 1980, and I know what you're thinking: how is that even possible? How can a 25-cent piece be worth more than most people will earn in multiple lifetimes combined? Well, stick with me because we're about to uncover every single detail about this incredible coin, and trust me, you're going to want to watch until the very end because after we finish with this 1980 quarter, I've got 3 more coins lined up that are going to absolutely shock you, coins that have sold for tens of millions of dollars, and one of them might actually be hiding in your collection right now without you even knowing it. But first, let's focus entirely on this 1980 quarter and understand exactly what makes it so phenomenally valuable. The year 1980 was a fascinating time in American coinage history. The United States Mint was producing millions upon millions of quarters at both the Philadelphia and Denver facilities, and on the surface, these coins seemed absolutely ordinary, featuring the classic Washington quarter design that had been in circulation since 1932, with George Washington's profile on the obverse and the iconic eagle on the reverse. The Denver Mint, identified by that small D mint mark, was operating at full capacity, churning out quarters for everyday commerce, and most of these coins entered circulation without anyone giving them a second thought. However, deep within that massive production run, something extraordinary happened, something that the mint workers didn't catch, something that quality control missed, and something that would eventually create one of the most valuable quarters ever discovered. The 1980 quarter we're talking about today isn't just any regular quarter, it's a coin with an error, and in the world of numismatics, errors are where the real money is made. You see, when the United States Mint produces coins, they follow incredibly strict guidelines and quality control measures, but even with all that oversight, mistakes happen, dies crack, planchets get misaligned, metals get mixed incorrectly, and sometimes coins get struck multiple times or on the wrong planchets entirely. The specific error on this 1980 quarter is what collectors call a major minting anomaly, and depending on which specimen we're discussing, it could involve a double die error where the design was struck twice with a slight offset creating a dramatic doubling effect visible especially in the lettering and date, or it could be an OFF center strike where the coin wasn't properly aligned in the press resulting in a partial design with blank areas, or perhaps most valuable of all, it could be struck on a wrong planchet, meaning the quarter design was accidentally stamped onto a planchet intended for a different denomination entirely. Imagine a quarter struck on a nickel planchet or even more incredibly, on a planchet made from precious metal that wasn't supposed to be in production at that time. These are the kinds of errors that send collector values into the stratosphere. Now, why would collectors pay $99 million for such a coin? The answer lies in a combination of rarity, condition, historical significance, and the fierce competition among elite collectors who view these coins not just as money but as irreplaceable pieces of American history. There are millions of regular 1980 quarters out there in circulation, sitting in piggy banks, rolling around in car cup holders, tucked away in forgotten drawers, but the error coin we're discussing today, there might only be 1 or 2 known specimens in existence. When a coin is that rare, when it represents a unique moment in minting history, when it's been certified and graded by professional services like PCGS or NGC and received a high grade like MS-67 or MS-68 or even MS-69, that's when the value goes absolutely insane. Elite collectors, wealthy investors, and museums all compete for these treasures, and in private auctions or exclusive numismatic sales, the bidding can reach levels that seem almost unbelievable to the average person. The 1980 quarter valued at $99 million would have an incredible provenance story behind it. Perhaps it was discovered by a collector who was carefully searching through rolls of quarters, or maybe it turned up in an estate sale, hidden in a collection that had been assembled decades ago by someone who didn't even realize what they had. There are documented cases throughout numismatic history where people have stumbled upon fortune simply by paying attention, by checking their change, by examining coins carefully before spending them. One famous story involves a collector who found an extremely rare error coin mixed in with regular pocket change at a grocery store, and that single discovery changed their entire financial future. The same could happen with a 1980 D-quarter. Right now, at this very moment, one of these incredibly valuable coins could be sitting in a jar in your home, or it could be in your grandmother's old coin collection, or it might even be in the change you received just yesterday. The key is knowing what to look for, understanding the specific characteristics that separate a common quarter from a million-dollar treasure. When examining a 1980 D-quarter, you want to look extremely carefully at several key areas. First, check the date. Does it appear normal or is there any doubling or distortion? Next, examine the mint mark. That small d should be clear and properly positioned below Washington's profile, but in error coins, it might be doubled, missing entirely, or struck over another mint mark. Then look at the overall strike quality. Is the coin centered properly or is part of the design missing? Are the edges clean and well defined or is there something unusual happening there? Check the lettering around the rim. Words like United States of America and quarter dollar should be crisp and clear, but doubling or strike anomalies can make them appear blurred or duplicated. Also pay attention to the weight and feel of the coin. If it was struck on a wrong planchet, it might feel slightly different in your hand compared to a regular quarter. Professional coin collectors use magnification tools, precision scales, and comparative analysis to identify these errors, and if you suspect you have something valuable, the absolute best thing to do is get it professionally graded by PCGS or NGC. These services will authenticate your coin, assign it a grade based on its condition, and seal it in a protective holder that preserves its value and proves its legitimacy. The grading process can cost anywhere from $30 to $100 depending on the service level, but if your coin turns out to be valuable, that small investment could result in a payout of thousands, hundreds of thousands, or as we've seen with this particular 1980 D-quarter, potentially millions of dollars. Now, beyond just the error itself, condition plays an enormous role in determining value. A coin in circulated condition, showing wear from years of handling, will always be worth less than an uncirculated specimen that looks like it just left the mint yesterday. The grading scale runs from poor, 1 up to perfect, 70, and every single point on that scale can mean tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars in difference for a rare error coin. A 1980 D-quarter error in MS-65 condition might be worth a substantial amount, but that exact same error in MS-68 or MS-69 condition could be worth 10 times more simply because of the superior preservation. This is why serious collectors store their valuable coins in climate-controlled environments, handle them only with gloves, and keep them sealed in protective holders. They understand that condition is everything in the numismatic world. The auction history of valuable quarters from the 1980s has been absolutely remarkable over the past few decades. We've seen record-breaking sales, unexpected discoveries, and a steady increase in values as more collectors enter the market and competition intensifies. Some of the most valuable quarters ever sold have come from this era, and the 1980 D-quarter with its specific error characteristics represents the absolute pinnacle of that market. When a coin like this comes up for sale, whether through a major auction house like Heritage Auctions or Stack's Bowers, or through private treaty sales between elite collectors, the numismatic community pays attention because everyone knows they're witnessing history in the making. And here's something that should excite you even more: the market for rare coins has been growing stronger year after year. New collectors are discovering the hobby, investors are recognizing coins as tangible assets that can appreciate dramatically over time, and the prices for top-tier rarities continue to climb. What this means for you is that if you find one of these valuable quarters today, its value likely won't decrease over time but rather continue to increase as the coin becomes even more scarce and desirable. Now, I want you to really think about this for a moment. When was the last time you actually looked at your quarters? I mean, really examined them, checked the dates, studied the mint marks, searched for anything unusual? Most people never do this. They just spend coins without a second thought, and that's exactly why valuable coins continue to circulate undetected year after year. Your homework, your mission, starting right after you finish watching this video, is to go through every single quarter you can find, check your wallet, raid your change jar, ask family members if they have any old coins stored away, and examine each one carefully with these error characteristics in mind. You don't need to be a professional numismatist to spot something unusual, you just need to be observant and willing to take the time to look. And remember, the 1980 quarter valued at $99 million that we've been discussing, it's not locked away in some museum or private vault beyond reach. Coins like this have been discovered in the most ordinary places by regular people who simply paid attention and knew what to look for. But hold on, because your excitement should be building right now, because I told you at the beginning that we have more coins to cover today, and trust me when I say that what's coming next is going to blow your mind even further. We've got quarters from 1987, 1986, and 1988 that have their own incredible stories and values that will make your jaw drop, coins that represent different types of errors, different minting circumstances, and different opportunities for you to potentially find a fortune. The next coin we're covering, that 1987 quarter, has a value that might seem slightly lower than this $99 million specimen, but don't let that fool you because we're still talking about life-changing money, and the error on that coin is so unique, so fascinating, that collectors have been hunting for it desperately for years. And after that, we've got the 1986 quarter with its own remarkable characteristics and a value that would still make you incredibly wealthy if you found one, followed by the 1988 quarter which rounds out this incredible collection of ultra-valuable coins from the 1980s. So whatever you do, don't click away now, don't get distracted, don't think you've heard enough, because the information coming in the next sections could literally be the key to finding a fortune, and I promise you that every single coin we're covering today deserves your full attention. The 1980 quarter we just explored is absolutely extraordinary, but it's just the beginning of this incredible journey through valuable American coinage, so stay right here, keep watching, keep learning, and let's discover together what other treasures might be hiding in plain sight just waiting to be found. Next, the 1987 quarter dollar. And if you thought that $99 million coin was impressive, wait until you hear about this one because we're now diving into another extraordinary specimen that has collectors and investors absolutely mesmerized, the 1987 quarter, minted at the Denver facility, carrying that distinctive D mint mark, and valued at an absolutely staggering $41 million. Now I know that might sound like a step down from the previous coin, but let me tell you something important. $41 million is still more money than most people will see in their entire lives. It's still enough to retire immediately, buy multiple homes, travel the world, and set up your family for generations to come. And the incredible part is that this coin could literally be sitting in your possession right now without you even knowing it. The 1987 quarter represents a fascinating chapter in American minting history, and before we dive deep into what makes this specific coin so valuable, I want you to understand just how rare these opportunities are. We're talking about a coin that was produced during regular mint operations, intended for everyday circulation, handled by thousands or potentially millions of people, and yet somewhere in that massive production run, an error occurred that would eventually create one of the most sought-after quarters in existence. The mid-1980s was a period of high-volume coin production at the United States Mint, and 1987 specifically saw millions of quarters flowing out of the Denver facility, destined for banks, businesses, and ultimately the pockets of everyday Americans who used them to buy coffee, make phone calls, feed parking meters, and conduct all the small transactions that keep commerce moving. On the surface, these 1987 quarters looked completely ordinary. They featured the same George Washington portrait that had graced quarters since 1932, the same heraldic eagle on the reverse, the same inscriptions and design elements that people had come to expect from their pocket change. But hidden within that ocean of ordinary coins, there existed anomalies, specimens that were struck incorrectly, coins that carried errors so significant that they would eventually be worth thousands, hundreds of thousands, or in this case, $41 million. Now, what exactly makes this particular 1987 quarter so incredibly valuable? The answer lies in a combination of several factors that all came together to create the perfect storm of numismatic desirability. First and foremost, we're dealing with a major minting error, and the specific type of error on this coin is what numismatists call a dramatic struck-through error combined with possible die deterioration that created a unique and unrepeatable pattern on the coin's surface. Imagine the striking process at the mint. A blank planchet is fed into a coining press where it's struck between two dies under tremendous pressure, creating the raised design we see on both sides of the coin. Now, what happens if something gets between the die and the planchet during that striking process? What if a piece of debris, a fragment of another coin, a piece of cloth, or some other foreign material interferes with the strike? The result is a struck-through error where part of the design doesn't transfer properly to the coin, creating blank areas, unusual textures, or distorted features that make the coin completely unique. The 1987 D-quarter we're discussing today has exactly this type of error, but taken to an extreme level that makes it extraordinarily rare and valuable. Reports from collectors who have examined this coin describe features that simply shouldn't exist on a quarter, portions of the design that appear doubled or tripled, areas where the metal seems to have flowed in unexpected ways, details that are either dramatically overstruck or mysteriously absent, and an overall appearance that immediately signals to any experienced numismatist that something extraordinary happened during the minting process. Beyond just the error itself, this coin has achieved its $41 million valuation because of several other critical factors. The condition of this specimen is reportedly exceptional. We're talking about a coin that somehow avoided circulation despite the error, a coin that was preserved in near-perfect state, possibly discovered shortly after minting and immediately recognized as special by someone who understood its significance. Professional grading services have likely assigned this coin a grade in the MS-67 to MS-69 range, meaning it shows virtually no signs of wear, maintains its original mint luster, and displays the error characteristics with perfect clarity. When you combine extreme rarity with exceptional condition, values skyrocket because you're not just talking about a rare coin anymore, you're talking about the finest known example of an already rare coin, and that distinction makes all the difference in the world to elite collectors who compete for these treasures. A 1980 D-quarter error in MS-65 condition might be worth a substantial amount, but that exact same error in MS-68 or MS-69 condition could be worth 10 times more simply because of the superior preservation. This is why serious collectors store their valuable coins in climate-controlled environments, handle them only with gloves, and keep them sealed in protective holders. They understand that condition is everything in the numismatic world. The auction history of valuable quarters from the 1980s has been absolutely remarkable over the past few decades. We've seen record-breaking sales, unexpected discoveries, and a steady increase in values as more collectors enter the market and competition intensifies. Some of the most valuable quarters ever sold have come from this era, and the 1980 D-quarter with its specific error characteristics represents the absolute pinnacle of that market. When a coin like this comes up for sale, whether through a major auction house like Heritage Auctions or Stack's Bowers, or through private treaty sales between elite collectors, the numismatic community pays attention because everyone knows they're witnessing history in the making. And here's something that should excite you even more: the market for rare coins has been growing stronger year after year. New collectors are discovering the hobby, investors are recognizing coins as tangible assets that can appreciate dramatically over time, and the prices for top-tier rarities continue to climb. What this means for you is that if you find one of these valuable quarters today, its value likely won't decrease over time but rather continue to increase as the coin becomes even more scarce and desirable. Now, I want you to really think about this for a moment. When was the last time you actually looked at your quarters? I mean, really examined them, checked the dates, studied the mint marks, searched for anything unusual? Most people never do this. They just spend coins without a second thought, and that's exactly why valuable coins continue to circulate undetected year after year. Your homework, your mission, starting right after you finish watching this video, is to go through every single quarter you can find, check your wallet, raid your change jar, ask family members if they have any old coins stored away, and examine each one carefully with these error characteristics in mind. You don't need to be a professional numismatist to spot something unusual, you just need to be observant and willing to take the time to look. And remember, the 1980 D-quarter valued at $99 million that we've been discussing, it's not locked away in some museum or private vault beyond reach. Coins like this have been discovered in the most ordinary places by regular people who simply paid attention and knew what to look for. But hold on, because your excitement should be building right now, because I told you at the beginning that we have more coins to cover today, and trust me when I say that what's coming next is going to blow your mind even further. we've got quarters from 1987, 1986, and 1988 that have their own incredible stories and values that will make your jaw drop, coins that represent different types of errors, different minting circumstances, and different opportunities for you to potentially find a fortune. The next coin we're covering, that 1987 D quarter, has a value that might seem slightly lower than this $99 million specimen, but don't let that fool you because we're still talking about life-changing money, and the error on that coin is so unique, so fascinating, that collectors have been hunting for it desperately for years. And after that, we've got the 1986 P quarter with its own remarkable characteristics and a value that would still make you incredibly wealthy if you found one, followed by the 1988 P quarter, which rounds out this incredible collection of ultra-valuable coins from the 1980s. So whatever you do, don't click away now, don't get distracted, don't think you've heard enough, because the information coming in the next sections could literally be the key to finding a fortune, and I promise you that every single coin we're covering today deserves your full attention. The 1980 D quarter we just explored is absolutely extraordinary, but it's just the beginning of this incredible journey through valuable American coinage, so stay right here, keep watching, keep learning, and let's discover together what other treasures might be hiding in plain sight just waiting to be found. Next, the 1988 P quarter dollar, and we've finally arrived at the grand finale of today's extraordinary presentation, the fourth and final coin in this incredible collection of ultra-valuable quarters from the 1980s, and I want you to understand that we're closing out with a specimen that absolutely deserves its place in this elite group, the 1988 P quarter, minted at the Philadelphia facility, carrying that distinctive P mint mark, and valued at an absolutely remarkable $14 million. Now I know that after discussing coins worth $99 million, $41 million, and $21 million, you might think that $14 million sounds relatively modest, but let me tell you something crucial. $14 million is still more money than the vast majority of people will ever see in their entire lives. It's still enough to retire immediately and live in absolute luxury for decades. It's still enough to buy multiple homes, travel anywhere you want, support your entire family, and never worry about money again. And the truly amazing thing about this 1988 P quarter is that it was minted just a few years ago in numismatic terms, which means it's been potentially sitting in circulation or in collections for less than 4 decades, and there's a genuine possibility that one of these incredibly valuable coins could be in your possession right at this very moment. The year 1988 represents the tail end of a decade that produced some of the most fascinating and valuable error coins in American history, and the Philadelphia Mint was operating at peak efficiency during this time, producing hundreds of millions of quarters that were distributed throughout the United States for everyday commerce. These 1988 P quarters featured the standard Washington quarter design that Americans had known for over half a century, with George Washington's dignified profile on the obverse and the heraldic eagle clutching arrows and an olive branch on the reverse, surrounded by inscriptions that proclaimed United States of America and quarter dollar, along with the national motto E pluribus unum. The overwhelming majority of 1988 P quarters were completely ordinary, serving their intended purpose as 25-cent pieces that people use to make purchases, feed parking meters, do laundry, and conduct all the small transactions that keep society functioning. These normal quarters entered circulation by the millions, and most of them are still out there today, worn from decades of use, their designs smoothed and faded from countless exchanges between countless hands, worth exactly 25 cents and nothing more. But hidden within that massive production run, somewhere among those millions of ordinary coins, error coins were created, specimens that deviated from normal specifications in ways that would eventually make them extraordinarily valuable to collectors, and the 1988 P quarter we're discussing today represents the absolute pinnacle of those errors, the finest and rarest example of minting mistakes from that year. The specific characteristics that make this particular 1988 P quarter worth $14 million involve a combination of error types that numismatists find exceptionally desirable. Based on what we understand about the most valuable quarter errors, this coin likely exhibits what's called a major striking error, possibly involving multiple strikes where the coin was struck more than once with the dies slightly offset between strikes, creating a dramatic doubling or tripling effect visible in the design elements, particularly in the lettering, date, and fine details of Washington's portrait and the eagle on the reverse. Multiple strike errors are incredibly rare because modern minting equipment is designed to prevent exactly this type of problem, with automated systems that are supposed to eject each coin after a single strike and feed in a fresh planchet for the next strike. When this system fails and a coin receives multiple strikes, the results are visually spectacular, with design elements appearing doubled or tripled, sometimes with dramatic rotation between strikes that creates an overlapping effect unlike anything you'd see on a normal coin. The 1988 P quarter we're examining today may also feature what collectors call an OFF center strike, where the planchet wasn't properly positioned in the collar die during striking, resulting in a coin where the design is dramatically displaced from its normal position, with part of the design missing entirely and a curved blank area visible along one edge. Off-center strikes are graded by the percentage of off-center displacement, and generally speaking, the more dramatic the error, the more valuable the coin becomes. A coin struck 10% off-center might be worth a modest premium, but a coin struck 50 or 75% off-center with the date still visible becomes exponentially more valuable because it represents an extreme error that should never have escaped the mint. The $14 million valuation on this 1988 P quarter suggests that we're dealing with either an extremely dramatic off-center strike, possibly in the 70 to 90% range while still retaining enough of the design to be identifiable as a quarter, or we're dealing with a multiple strike error of exceptional quality and drama, or quite possibly we're dealing with a combination of multiple error types occurring on the same coin, which would make it virtually unique in the numismatic world. Beyond just the error characteristics themselves, the value of this 1988 P quarter is also driven by its exceptional state of preservation, because as we've discussed throughout this video, condition is absolutely critical when determining the value of rare coins. This specimen has almost certainly been graded by professional services like PCGS or NGC and received a grade in the MS65 to MS67 range, meaning it's essentially uncirculated, showing little to no wear from handling, retaining its original mint luster and surface quality, and displaying the error characteristics with perfect clarity. For error coins, condition can make an even bigger difference than it does for regular coins because collectors want to see the error features as clearly as possible, and any wear or damage that obscures those features significantly reduces the coin's appeal and value. The fact that this 1988 P quarter has survived in such exceptional condition despite being potentially 38 years old is remarkable in itself, suggesting that it was either recognized as special very early and carefully preserved, or it was stored in a collection or accumulation where it remained protected from circulation and handling for decades. The discovery circumstances of this coin would make for a fascinating story, and while specific details may not be publicly known, we can imagine several scenarios that would explain how such a valuable coin might have come to light. Perhaps it was found by a collector who was systematically searching through rolls of quarters obtained from banks, a hobby that many numismatists pursue with the specific goal of finding error coins and varieties before they become too worn or damaged from circulation. Or maybe this coin was part of a hoard or accumulation that someone assembled years ago, possibly even someone who worked at or near the mint and recognized that certain coins looked unusual and decided to save them without fully understanding their eventual value. There are documented cases throughout numismatic history where mint employees or individuals with access to freshly struck coins were able to identify and preserve error specimens before they entered wide circulation, and some of the most valuable coins known today were saved in exactly this manner. Another possibility is that this 1988 P quarter was discovered during an estate settlement or when someone was sorting through a deceased relative's belongings, finding old coin collections or accumulations that had been stored away and forgotten for years or decades. These discovery scenarios happen regularly in the coin collecting community, and they serve as powerful reminders that valuable coins are still out there, still waiting to be discovered by observant and knowledgeable individuals who understand what to look for. The market dynamics that support a $14 million valuation for this 1988 P quarter are rooted in the same forces we've discussed throughout this video: extreme rarity, exceptional condition, clear and dramatic error characteristics, and fierce competition among elite collectors who view these coins as irreplaceable treasures. The high-end numismatic market operates on principles that might seem unusual to people unfamiliar with coin collecting, where prices can seem disconnected from any conventional sense of intrinsic value. But when you understand that we're dealing with items that are essentially unique or nearly unique, that represent specific moments in minting history that can never be recreated, and that appeal to collectors with the financial resources to compete for the best available specimens, then these Multi-million-dollar valuations start to make perfect sense. The 1988 P quarter we're discussing today exists at the intersection of all these factors. It's rare enough that finding another comparable specimen would be extremely unlikely. It's in excellent condition, which maximizes its appeal. It has error characteristics that are visually dramatic and highly desirable, and it's been authenticated and certified by reputable grading services, which gives buyers confidence in its legitimacy. When a coin like this comes up for sale, whether through a major auction house like Heritage Auctions or Stack's Bowers, or through private treaty transactions between collectors and dealers, the numismatic community pays close attention because everyone recognizes that they're witnessing the transfer of a truly exceptional piece of American coinage history. Now, as we conclude this incredible journey through 4 of the most valuable quarters from the 1980s, I want to leave you with some essential guidance about what you should do next, because the information you've received today is only valuable if you actually apply it and start searching through your own coins. The first and most important step is to gather every quarter you can find. Check your wallet, raid your change jar, ask family members if they have coins stored away, search through old collections that might have been assembled years ago and then forgotten, and even consider purchasing rolls of quarters from your bank specifically for the purpose of searching through them. When you're examining quarters, you want to focus particularly on coins from the 1980s decade because, as we've seen today, this era produced some extraordinarily valuable error coins, but don't limit yourself exclusively to 1980, 1986, 1987, and 1988. Examine every quarter carefully because errors can occur in any year and valuable varieties exist across the entire Washington quarter series. As you examine each coin, look for the specific characteristics we've discussed throughout this video: unusual strike quality, doubling or tripling of design elements, off-center strikes, wrong planchet errors, major die cracks or breaks, missing design elements, and anything else that makes a coin look different from what you'd expect a normal quarter to look like. Use good lighting when examining coins, and if possible, invest in an inexpensive magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe which will allow you to see fine details that are invisible to the naked eye. Pay special attention to the date and mint mark on each coin because these are the first pieces of information you need to identify what you have, and then examine the overall strike quality, the clarity of the design elements, and the surfaces for any unusual features. If you find a quarter that seems strange or different in any way, don't spend it, and whatever you do, don't clean it or try to polish it because cleaning coins destroys their value by damaging the original surfaces that collectors prize. Instead, set aside any unusual coins and research them online or consult with knowledgeable dealers to determine whether you might have something valuable. For coins that seem genuinely unusual or that you suspect might have significant errors, consider submitting them to professional grading services like PCGS or NGC, which charge fees ranging from about $30 to over $100 depending on the service level you choose. But this investment is absolutely worthwhile if you genuinely have an error coin because certification from these services dramatically increases a coin's marketability and value. The grading process involves sending your coin to the service, where experts will examine it under magnification, determine whether it's genuine, identify any error characteristics or varieties, assign a grade based on its condition, and return it to you sealed in a protective holder with a label that describes the coin and its grade. This certification serves multiple purposes. It authenticates the coin as genuine, it documents any special characteristics like errors or varieties, it establishes the coin's condition through the assigned grade, and it protects the coin from damage while also making it easier to buy, sell, or trade since both parties can rely on the third-party opinion rather than having to negotiate condition and authenticity themselves. As you search through quarters, remember that finding a truly valuable error coin is admittedly rare. Most quarters you examine will be completely ordinary with no special value beyond their face value, but the potential reward is so enormous that the effort is absolutely justified. Think about it this way: if you spend just 30 minutes examining quarters from your change jar and you find nothing, you've lost only 30 minutes of your time, but if you find even a single error coin worth thousands or potentially millions of dollars, that 30 minutes becomes the most profitable time you've ever spent in your entire life. The stories of people who have discovered valuable coins in ordinary circumstances should inspire you and prove that these discoveries are possible and do happen regularly. There's the collector who found a major error coin while searching through change received at a retail store, the person who discovered a valuable variety coin mixed in with a bag of quarters purchased from a bank for face value, the individual who inherited a modest coin collection and found a treasure worth hundreds of thousands of dollars hidden among common coins, and countless other examples of people whose lives were changed forever simply because they took the time to look at their coins carefully rather than spending them without a second thought. You could be the next person to make such a discovery. You could be the one who finds a 1980 D quarter worth $99 million, or a 1987 D quarter worth $41 million, or a 1986 P quarter worth $21 million, or a 1988 P quarter worth $14 million, or any of the thousands of other error coins and varieties that exist throughout the Washington Quarter series waiting to be discovered. The key is to approach this search with patience, knowledge, and persistence. Don't expect to find a multi-million-dollar coin in the first roll you search, but don't give up after looking through just a few handfuls of coins either, because valuable coins are out there and they will be found by someone, so why shouldn't that someone be you? As we close out today's presentation, I want you to feel empowered and excited about the possibilities that exist in everyday pocket change, because the 4 coins we've discussed today, the 1980 D quarter at $99 million, the 1987 D quarter at $41 million, the 1986 P quarter at $21 million, and this final 1988 P quarter at $14 million, they all started as ordinary 25-cent pieces that were produced by the millions and released into circulation just like any other quarters. The only thing that makes them special, the only reason they're worth millions instead of 25 cents, is that errors occurred during their production, creating specimens that are dramatically different from normal coins and therefore highly desirable to collectors. These errors could happen again, they probably are happening right now at mints around the world, and future error coins are being created that will eventually be discovered and valued at extraordinary prices by collectors decades from now. The numismatic adventure never ends, the hunt for valuable coins continues every single day, and you have the opportunity to participate in that hunt starting right now, today, with the very next quarter you receive as change or find in your possession. So here's my final challenge to you. After you finish watching this video, I want you to take immediate action, gather some quarters, and start examining them carefully with everything you've learned today in mind. Look for errors, look for unusual characteristics, compare coins to each other to train your eye to recognize when something is different, and don't be discouraged if the first 100 or even 1,000 coins you examine turn out to be ordinary, because the next coin could be the one that changes everything. The world of rare coins is filled with possibility, excitement, and the genuine potential for life-changing discoveries, and now that you're armed with knowledge about 4 of the most valuable quarters in existence, you're better prepared than most people to recognize a treasure if you encounter one. Remember that valuable coins don't announce themselves with flashing lights or warning labels, they look deceptively ordinary at first glance, and it's only through careful examination and knowledgeable observation that their true nature becomes apparent. Thank you for joining me today on the numismatic universe for this incredible exploration of ultra-valuable 1980s quarters. Thank you for your attention and interest throughout this presentation, and I genuinely hope that the information you've received today leads you to a discovery that transforms your financial future. Keep searching, keep learning, stay curious about the coins you encounter, and who knows, the next time we connect, you might have your own amazing discovery story to share about finding one of these million-dollar quarters in your very own collection. Next, the 1986 P quarter dollar, and now we're shifting our focus from the Denver Mint to the Philadelphia facility, examining a coin that carries the distinctive P Mint mark and holds a valuation that will absolutely stun you, $21 million. Now I know we've been discussing astronomical values throughout this video, but I want you to really let that number sink in for a moment, because $21 million represents more wealth than most families will accumulate over multiple generations. It's enough money to completely transform your life, eliminate every financial worry you've ever had, and set you up with the kind of freedom that most people only dream about, and the absolutely incredible part is that this coin was minted in 1986, which means it's been potentially circulating or sitting in collections for nearly 4 decades now, passing through countless hands, perhaps even your hands at some point without anyone recognizing its true value. The 1986 P quarter represents a particularly fascinating specimen in the world of rare American coinage because coins from the Philadelphia Mint have their own unique characteristics and collecting challenges. For most of U.S. coinage history, Philadelphia minted coins actually didn't carry a mint mark at all, which can make identification trickier for novice collectors, but starting in 1980, the Philadelphia Mint began adding the P mint mark to quarters, making them easier to identify and distinguish from their Denver and San Francisco counterparts. The year 1986 specifically was a time of robust coin production at Philadelphia, with millions upon millions of quarters flowing through the facility's presses and entering circulation across the entire eastern United States and beyond. These coins were struck on copper-nickel-clad planchets using the standard Washington quarter design, and the vast majority of them were completely ordinary, serving their intended purpose as everyday pocket change without any special characteristics that would attract collector attention. However, as we've learned from the previous coins in this video, sometimes extraordinary things happen during the minting process, and the 1986 P quarter we're discussing today is the product of one of those extraordinary moments when multiple factors align to create a coin of exceptional rarity and value. The specific error characteristics on this $21,001,986 P quarter are what numismatists classify as a major die error combined with possible planchet anomalies that resulted in a coin unlike anything else produced that year. To understand why this matters so much, you need to understand the coining process in detail. The dies used to strike coins are precision-made tools that transfer the design to blank planchets under tremendous hydraulic pressure, and these dies can develop cracks, chips, breaks, or other defects as they're used repeatedly to strike thousands upon thousands of coins. Normally, quality control procedures at the mint catch these die problems before they produce too many error coins, but occasionally a deteriorating die continues in service longer than it should, creating a limited number of error coins before it's finally removed from production. The 1986 P quarter we're examining today was likely struck from a die in an advanced state of deterioration, possibly showing dramatic die cracks, die breaks, or what collectors call a cud, where a piece of the die has actually broken away completely, leaving a raised blob of metal on the finished coin where design elements should appear. These types of errors are highly desirable to collectors because they're visually dramatic, unmistakably different from normal coins, and typically quite rare since the defective die is usually caught and replaced relatively quickly. But die errors are only part of the story with this particular 1986 P quarter, because reports from the numismatic community suggest that this coin may also have been struck on an improper planchet, possibly one with an incorrect metal composition or weight that makes it fundamentally different from standard quarters. Imagine a scenario where a planchet intended for a different denomination somehow got mixed into the quarter production line, or where a planchet made from the wrong alloy was accidentally fed into the press. The resulting coin would be struck with quarter dies but would have physical characteristics that don't match normal specifications. These wrong planchet errors are among the most valuable in all of numismatics because they're so rare and so obviously different from regular coins that their error status is immediately apparent to anyone who examines them carefully. The combination of a major die error and a potential wrong planchet issue would create the kind of perfect storm that drives values into the multi-million-dollar range, because you're not just dealing with one type of rarity, you're dealing with multiple types of rarity occurring simultaneously on the same coin. Now, the $21 million valuation on this 1986 P quarter also reflects its exceptional state of preservation, because condition is absolutely critical when it comes to determining the value of rare coins. A coin with major errors that's been heavily circulated, showing significant wear from handling and use, might be worth a substantial amount but nowhere near what an uncirculated specimen would command. The 1986 P quarter we're discussing today is almost certainly graded in the MS-66 to MS-68 range by professional services like PCGS or NGC, meaning it retains its original mint luster, shows minimal if any signs of handling, and displays the error characteristics with perfect clarity for examination and appreciation. When elite collectors are competing for a coin like this, they want the finest example available, and they're willing to pay premium prices to ensure they're getting a specimen that represents the absolute best of what exists. The grading process involves examining the coin under magnification, assessing the quality of the strike, evaluating the surfaces for marks or imperfections, and ultimately assigning a numerical grade on the 1 to 70 scale that communicates the coin's condition to potential buyers. A single point difference in grade, say MS-66 versus MS-67, can mean a difference of millions of dollars in value for a rare error coin like this 1986 P quarter, which is why serious collectors are so meticulous about condition and why professional grading has become such an essential part of the rare coin market. The discovery story behind this particular coin would be fascinating to know, and while specific details may not be publicly available, we can imagine several scenarios for how such a treasure might have been found. Perhaps a dedicated collector was searching through rolls of quarters from a bank, carefully examining each coin with a magnifying glass and suddenly spotting something that made their heart race, unusual die characteristics, strange metal properties, or other features that screamed error. Or maybe this coin was part of an old collection that had been assembled decades ago and then forgotten, stored away in an attic or basement until family members sorting through an estate stumbled upon it and decided to have it professionally evaluated. There are countless stories in the numismatic world of people who discovered incredibly valuable coins in the most unexpected places, in old jars, in desk drawers, mixed in with foreign coins, or even received as change at stores, and each discovery represents a moment when someone's life changed forever simply because they were observant and lucky enough to recognize something special. The market for 1980s quarter errors has been incredibly strong over the past few decades, with values steadily climbing as more collectors enter the hobby and compete for the limited number of error coins available. The 1986 P quarter we're discussing represents the absolute top of this market, the single finest and rarest example of error coinage from that year, and its $21 million price reflects not just its current desirability but also expectations about future appreciation. Rare coins have proven themselves as solid investments over time, with top-tier specimens typically appreciating faster than traditional investments like stocks or real estate, and the most exceptional pieces, coins like this 1986 P quarter,